Tony, the attorney, comes on, drops some major, awesome gems and knowledge. You've come on here before and dropped some as well. Let's talk a little bit about Kamara. We've got Tony's perspective, which I respect, and Tony's so full of knowledge, and you are too. But let's talk about, so if we're saying Kamara, here's my concern with Kamara, and you tell me what you think about Kamara. Alvin Kamara, pushing this hearing forward doesn't mean anything to me other than, if the trial begins at all, in my opinion, the NFL is going to put Kamara on paid leave, on the exempt list paid, because I don't think they want the optics of him going to court and being in the spotlight about beating a man unconscious. And he was arrested, and oftentimes being arrested, period, can trigger a suspension. And now the NFL has the stance where they typically like things to play out before they make a determination. So what people are doing is they're hearing from Schefter, and they're hearing from different reports that if Kamara's hearings move forward 60 days, the likelihood of a concluded trial is now looking like 2023. And therefore, if the results won't be known until 2023, and the NFL typically likes to hold off on dishing out discipline until they know what's what in criminal, that means Kamara will avoid suspension. But what people aren't factoring in is that if a trial begins at all, and as you're about to, I think, highlight, there's a high likelihood of the trial beginning before the season even comes close to an end. The NFL is going to act in terms of, let's get the optics of this thing, control it, and let's put Kamara on paid leave, not punish him per se, put him on paid leave, like you go to Bob in accounting and say, Bob, you're doing this domestic thing. We support you. We're going to pay you to take time off and take care of it. And then if Bob is guilty, we're going to then go after him and punish him. But until then, Bob, we were going to put you on paid leave, go take care of it, then come back when it's all sorted out. What's your take on everything I said, and what is your additional recommendation to people from your personal opinion, but one that comes from a legal angle?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Number one, paid leave is not per se considered to be any kind of punishment. If you'll recall, that's what Colin Kaepernick was protesting about when he was taking a knee. He was saying these police officers are just getting paid leave. That's not a punishment. You're totally right about that. With the Alvin Kamara case, I haven't followed all of it really closely, but the reality is, I'm sure his attorneys are going to try to file a number of continuances, and there's got to be a reason. It's not just because Alvin Kamara wants to play football and he's an NFL player is not a justification for a continuance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, even in
you're not going to get him. And so, okay, yeah, there are cases that take like a year before they go to trial, but that's more the exception than the rule. If you think about it this way, what about the guy who got beaten the crap out of? Doesn't he deserve his day in court? Is it fair to him to wait over a year at least for nothing?
Yeah, and I've been on Instagram and YouTube.
The judge, like I said, maybe Kamara's attorneys might be crafty and they might figure out ways to file continuances, but the judge is probably going to, first off, there's a chance right off the rip that the judge has had an opportunity already to see this tape that we haven't seen. And if it's heinous, the judge is a human being. He's going to want to give that guy a chance to have the criminal trial actually take place.
Yeah. And what about a plea deal? Like, there's a lot of people talking about pleas all the time. Like, this isn't going to go to trial. So speak to that real quick.
That could, okay, so yeah, that could occur, but is that going to affect Alvin Kamara's time on the field?
I think so.
It depends what the plea deal is. If he's pleading to something, he's going to have to plead to a relatively light misdemeanor, which there's a big, I guess if we saw the tape, we would know. We would know how bad the guy was beaten up. That doesn't seem likely if the guy was beaten up unconscious and he was in the hospital. Wasn't the guy in the hospital for like at least a week?
Bro, there's photos of it, and I'm sure that they took the best photos they could get, they could doll up to, right? That's the nature of this. But the photos looked awful. Guy looked...
I think the only reason the NFL hasn't done anything is they haven't seen the tape yet. I think if Roger Goodell... It's just like, for example, if you saw the Ray Rice tape, you're never going to see Ray Rice the same way again. No team ever will hire him again. I mean, now he's old, but after they saw that tape, who's going to hire Ray Rice to play football for them? Even as a backup. Whereas, like, before that, I mean, if you think, I don't know if you remember that far back, before that, the tone just wasn't the same.
Yeah, and like I've said,
that tape gets out to the NFL. Kamara, it doesn't matter where it is in this case.
Yeah, and
Kamara's not playing.
Like I said over and over, that once the tape leaks, and you have had a lot of clowns hit me up the last couple of days at a lot of my Instagram comments and say things like the tape's already out, tape's already leaked. The tape hasn't leaked. There's footage or screenshots that people have of the elevator situation, and there's footage outside of the elevator that they have surveillance of, but there's no footage that's been released of the actual beating. And to my knowledge, and maybe the reports are all wrong, and I highly doubt it, to my knowledge, Kamara, the way that this went down, Kamara put his hand on the alleged victim's chest and tried to force him out of the elevator, like next elevator, buddy type of situation. Guy slapped Kamara's hand down. The moment he pushed Kamara's hand down, Kamara's entourage just immediately jumped the guy. Kamara also partook, according to reports, in that beating right there. Once the guy was unconscious and hit the ground, Kamara reportedly at least once, and the other individuals, kicked the guy while he was unconscious. If that video is released, he's done. He's done. So what I've been telling everybody is I'm not saying avoid him. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not saying the footage will for sure get released. I'm not saying he'll for sure miss time. What I'm saying is when Adam Schefter or somebody comes out and says, now that the hearing's been pushed forward 60 days, a suspension is highly unlikely to impact Alvin Kamara in 2022. I think no one could speak to that. I think when you start talking about not certainty, because he said might or whatever, but said that there's a high chance that it won't happen or whatever his exact wording was, I think that's reckless because there's so many different components here. Like I just said, the tape leaking, that's one component. The fact that if a trial even begins before the season ends, it doesn't matter if the NFL sits back and dishes out punishment after it's all said and done, like you and I just confirmed. They don't deem commissioner exemplis paid leave as punishment, and they would most certainly remove him from going to court during the week, hitting the field. This is what Tony, the attorney, said when he came on, is the optics of that are awful, that the NFL is most certainly not going to want out, in his opinion, and I trust you and Tony a lot, having Kamara go to court during the weekday and go hit the field on the weekend. And so removing him and giving him paid leave is not punishing him. That's giving him fair ability to go, cruise in a court of law. And so I just think there are a lot of components involved that could rapture Alvin Kamara from your lineup in later weeks in the 2022 season, and you're not baking in the risk. Like baked in, boys. Our attorney on the phone is going to tell you to bake in.
High round 2. That's what I'm saying. If I was getting Alvin Kamara maybe in round 7 or round 8 or round 9, I'd definitely do it because you're going to get some games out of him. But I don't think you're going to get a full season. And it's also another thing to think about. A process. So you're talking about a plea bargain. A prosecutor is going to have to actually recommend that to the victim. And if there's a video of a guy getting beaten down by 3 or 4 of Alvin Kamara's bodyguards and Alvin Kamara, there's just an extremely low likelihood that we're talking about some really minimal.
Yeah. So what you're saying,
they're probably not even going to. A lot of prosecutors just wouldn't even. They may let you enter a guilty plea. To save some time, but they think that's a slam dunk case.
Yeah, and so what you're saying is that
they're not going to give you some. They're not going to agree to a pretty minimal plea bargain which then they got to go around. They got to go face to face with that victim and say, "Hey,
yeah,
we're not going to do anything to these guys."
Yeah. What you're saying is a plea bargain is not literally on the table because it's too heinous of a crime. There's no way that the opposing side is going to be okay with this dumbed down, small time charge.
Because we haven't seen the video.
Yeah. But assuming
I think the video is going to be about like what you and I are saying it's going to be, which is really bad for Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, I just think people like here's my final thought on Alvin Kamara, because everyone's taking what I'm saying. There's people running their mouth about the video already being out. It's not out. It's not out. There's footage of them in the hallway. There's screenshots of them in the elevator, and people talk about it. The complete video is not out. So people stop running your mouth about that in the comments when you're coming from my neck saying, Smitty, it's already leaked. You're an Alvin Kamara owner. Hello, Alvin Kamara dynasty owner. I know you want to defend him, but Alvin Kamara's in more trouble, in more potential trouble in 2022 than people like Schefter and everybody's reporting, because that if this video gets leaked, and let me ask you this, was the Ray Rice video leaked? The answer is yes. Was the Kareem Hunt video leaked? The answer is yes. What's the likelihood of this video getting released? And do you think that that's going to be, is that a traditional thing that gets leaked by the prosecution? Like, how do these videos get out like that when they're not supposed to? Is it typically someone that knows somebody that you can't track who did it, but it always comes from that prosecution side? Or like, what is?
Well, so a lot of the time it helps the prosecution because of the court of a public opinion.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could be someone. Now, of course, they're not supposed to do that. And, of course, they're not going to actually admit to that. Now, one thing that's a little confusing to me, how come Roger Goodell hasn't gotten it? Forget about a leak. If Goodell sees it, even if the rest of the world doesn't, and it's a guy getting the absolute piss beaten out of him by 3 or 4 big bodyguards and Alvin Kamara, because the guy slapped Alvin Kamara's hand away, he's getting suspended.
Yeah.
Like, think about it this way. They suspended Ezekiel Elliott for a lot less than that. And if you recall, like a few years ago, Elliott's ADP was low because people thought he was going to get suspended for a series of things that there wasn't really very much evidence. So, like, one time he pulled a girl's shirt up at a parade, and then he got in a scuffle, but there were no charges pressed. Then he suspended Ezekiel Elliott. Why wouldn't he suspend Alvin Kamara if there actually is clear-cut evidence that this happened?
What would you say the odds are that the full video gets leaked? If you just had to throw an arbitrary number.
The security cam?
Yeah, the elevator security footage of the beatdown. What are the odds if you had to throw out your educated guess based on how these things leak in the public eye and Kareem Hunt, Ray Rice? It's not a typical case where this gets leaked. It doesn't matter if it gets leaked in a regular Joe Schmo scenario, but in the court of public opinion with a high profile player, what are the odds that this gets leaked by the prosecution in your mind? Like, if you were taking this case and you were defending, what are you thinking in your mind? Like, oh God, this is going to get leaked. This is going to get leaked during this case.
They all get leaked. That was your point, which I think makes a lot of sense. They all get leaked one way or another. Doesn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like everybody's getting fed information when
it's a big time celebrity like that.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter if it's a regular Joe Schmo. It doesn't matter if it gets leaked. There's no public opinion that matters. So in this case, it's like if you're a prosecutor, and I saw a comment in here, it's like prosecution. Oops, the video got leaked. We're going after Kamara in the court of public opinion. Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's a lot riskier. Like here's my my conclusion here, because this is why I'm talking about it again, because I'm getting a lot of Smitty. You're crazy. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. I'm not saying don't invest in Kamara. I'm saying that before this news broke by Schefter, saying that the odds of, because of the hearing being pushed forward, the odds of a conclusion happening during the season's unlikely, therefore it's unlikely that punishment's going to be handed down to Alvin Kamara in the 2022 season. That is triggering every one of you out there to take him at 2.2, 2.3. You're not baking in any risk anymore whatsoever into this situation.
It was pushed forward 60 days, right?
Right, 60 days. Not 6 months, 60 days.
Not right. Right, that's my point. You're not going to. So, like I said, what Alvin Kamara's attorneys are going to try to do is file a series of continuances, which means it's like postponing, that step of the case. But they've got to have the reason can't be, you see, Alvin Kamara is a professional football player in his football season. That's not a reason that's not a reason they can. That's not a legal grounds. There's got to be some actual reason to do it, and I'm sure they're going to try. But let's put it this way: it's the exception, not the rule. That it could go a year. You could string that out for a year, and a judge is just fine with that.
Yeah, and I think
most of them aren't.
And I think what people are suggesting.
I understand Adam Schefter is the be all and end all of news, but it doesn't matter what Adam Schefter. It doesn't matter what he's saying, because he's not saying anything that's related to that. All he's saying is that it was postponed 60 days, so that must mean that he's,
Well, it's coming.
The case isn't going to happen during the season. The football season is longer than 60 days from now.
Yeah, what it's coming down to is that is triggering Adam Schefter and other people to suggest that because the NFL is taking a stance of, we'll let the legal process play out, they think that now that it's going to take until 2023 to conclude, therefore they won't hand out or step in at all. And what I keep telling people is the NFL will step in if PR reasons dictate. They're all about PR. Everything is about PR. And if the PR is bad, if the optics are bad, they will step in, remove him on paid leave, and say you aren't going to play until this is worked out because the optics are horrible. So you have that potential, right? Going to court. If the trial starts at all before the end of the year, going to court and then playing on the field, and all the news, the negative news, the spotlight on the NFL is making them make decisions that are based on PR. And so that alone, that one angle alone could remove him from play on paid leave. We don't want the negative press that we let a person that was arrested for beating up a man unconscious and kicking him while he's down. We can't afford that PR. So we're going to pay you. We're not going to punish you. We're going to pay you, put you on paid leave. That's one angle. The other angle is if the video leaks, he's done. If the full video leaks, he is done. Because they're not, if it's as bad as we think, maybe the video isn't as bad. But if it's as bad as we think, there are two reasons right there that Alvin Kamara can be raptured from your team in fantasy football. And the problem here is that you used to package in, everybody watching this, an Alvin Kamara supporter right now for 2022, you were packaging in fourth round value, that's risk baked in. Missed 6 games, 8 games, you were getting him in round 4. It was baked in. Now you're getting him at 2.1, 2.2. Some of you are considering the end of the first round, which has no risk baked in whatsoever. And if he gets raptured, you're in a worse spot, a much worse spot than you were if he missed the first 6 games of the year. That's all I'm saying. And I believe that you're confirming what I'm saying. So it's risky.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, the case has been delayed 60 days. Everyone's fantasy draft is going to be done by then.
Yeah.
So there's no way his ADP is going to drop drastically. Well, unless somehow that video gets leaked within the next month, which possibly could happen. Somehow. Then his ADP would drop if that video got out. But let's just say it doesn't, he's going to be a second rounder. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm not going to have him. I'd take him, and maybe if I've already drafted, 2 other running backs, then I'd draft him for sure later on in my draft.
Yeah.
Or even if I've drafted a really good running back 1 and some pretty good wide receivers, then maybe I'll draft Kamara and be looking for Kenneth Walker would have been a guy or somebody like that much later in the draft. You could do that, but if you're drafting Kamara in the second round, you've either already drafted an RB1 and you're not drafting a wide receiver 1 there, or you drafted a wide receiver, or maybe even when it was Travis Kelce. But there's some guy that you're not drafting and you're picking up Kamara way too early, and you're not going to have him.
I'm having a Kenneth Walker meltdown.
I don't think the judge is going to extend this thing for a whole year for nothing. Not in a case that's all based on there's a video of them beating the guy down. So it's kind of not that complicated.
Yeah. All right, Baked In Boys. Appreciate you, pal.
I don't think they're stretching it out for a whole year.
Yeah.
Till the end of this year's football season.
I appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate your knowledge. You and Tony are my go-tos. This is not me. This is not me stepping out on Tony. Tony, the attorney. He's definitely been here as a consigliere of the show, and Baked In Boys is just an added bonus. You're like the, who are you? If he's my consigliere, what's that make you? I guess my two panel team.
Maybe an associate.
Yeah, you're my two panel team.
Maybe that person on the team.
Yeah. All right. So again, let's leave it at this: percentage chance that Alvin Kamara's full video gets leaked by I don't know, just some point during the year. What's your percentage chance? Like, put yourself in the defense attorney's hat right here. Like, if you're taking this case on, what are you thinking in your head when you sit down with Alvin Kamara and you're like, look, there is a good chance this video gets leaked because this is the court of public opinion. There's money involved. Like, there's so much involved. What do you tell him the chances that the video gets leaked?
Well, I think that may be part of what they're trying to figure out every kind of way to at least delay that. They probably haven't given it over yet, but I'm not sure what that's the problem is. I don't know where they're at with their pretrial motion, so I don't know if they're far enough along. They have a duty to show all of their evidence that they're going to present.
Would you say
to the other side?
Would you say over 50%?
Alvin Kamara has his attorneys have no option. They're going to have to do that.
So you think way over 50% chance that the video gets leaked?
Probably, because it always does.
Yeah.
There's going to be somebody in that prosecutor's office. I'll put it this way. Once it's out there, Alvin Kamara and his attorneys won't be able to control it per se.
Do you think that...
Of course.
Motion detected at the backyard.
A judge is going to say, keep this. You can't just release this to the public.
Do you think it goes a little something like this? Hey, Margaret, can you release that video? Put that video in the mail. Send it to TMZ. I've got it all postmarked. Thanks, Margaret. Wear gloves. Wear gloves. Thank you. Is that similar to how it probably goes down?
TMZ is really effective. I don't know how they do exactly what they do, but I mean, if you think about it, just think about how many times, not even just NFL players, but any athletes or even movie stars, musicians, their stuff always gets leaked. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And a lot of people say
I think it's more than 50% chance. I also think it's at best 50-50 that Adam Schefter is right, which I don't know that that's news as much as it is conjecture.
Yeah.
Just because the thing got extended for 60 days doesn't mean they're going to extend it for 1 year.
Right. Right.
I doubt that.
And again, you're trying to project what the NFL is going to do with the PR and optics of it, like that, and with the ability to put them on paid leave, and look at it like it's not punishment. It's more protecting the NFL's image and like almost saying we support you. Go handle this. Another thing that's crazy, real quick, while we're on the topic, and then I'll let you go because I know you probably have to go, and I'm going to probably end the show here in a second. I got to order my pizza and all that, but no one's talking about Dalvin Cook. No one's talking about Dalvin Cook right now. This situation is still, he's got a potential legal issue pending still, doesn't he? It's that domestic situation. I don't know if it got resolved quietly.
Right. So I haven't really heard any news. I've been relying on you for the news.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I haven't heard any news. I don't know for sure if his girlfriend pressed charges or like what. We heard, well, we kind of just heard some rumors. I don't know exactly, as far as I know, there wasn't actually something filed, but maybe there was.
Yeah, can I ask you one more Kamara question and then we'll end it? A lot of people say settle. He's going to settle. He's going to settle. What is the legal angle for this thing to go away? It can't. I mean, at what point does the DA or the actual, the legal system say you can't? This is too far along, and we have evidence that a crime took place. We're not allowing this thing to go in that direction. Can you explain to people from a legal perspective what it means to have something like this go away in a settlement when you're in the middle of a potential trial starting? Can you explain that? Because from a legal perspective, there's a certain obligation of the law to pursue something, whether it be the DA, right? If there's evidence of a crime, just like the Deshaun Watson stuff, there's no crime reported for Deshaun Watson, right? None of these people went to the police. But once the civil the claims were filed, the DA had an obligation. If I have this correct, you can correct me if I'm wrong. The DA had an obligation to look into it because now there is evidence maybe a crime was committed, which they had no clue was taking place. So they look at it, they poke around, they investigate, they either open up an investigation or they look at it and determine there's no crime here or there is a crime here. We're going to pursue it. The DA is going to pursue it. What are we looking at with this current situation
with Watson? That could happen. Because the reason why that could happen with Watson is because when the DA decided that they weren't going to be able to get it through a grand jury, that there was like maybe 20. Now there's like 100 women.
Yeah.
So all those other 80 women probably have some different evidence.
Yeah, definitely. But with the Kamara situation,
that situation is really bizarre.
Yeah. What about this one?
It's gone way. I think it's to the point too where everybody's saying, "Oh, Deshaun Watson's just going to be fine. He's going to play." I think Deshaun Watson's addicted to doing what he did.
Yeah.
Which means he's going to do that again.
But
even if he gets through all 100 cases, that's actually going to make it worse because he thinks he can get away with it.
So real quickly, back to Kamara, and then I got to jump. Kamara, explain that process of how this could go away, and if that's even possible.
I mean, so it could. What I would say is that they've actually filed this case, it's in the hands of the prosecutor. So it's not like the victim just has control over that. The prosecution can move forward and actually prosecute the case.
Because,
but, I mean, if the victim is saying, well, my injuries aren't so bad, if Alvin Kamara is willing to, pay me a lot of money and whatever, then the prosecutor might at that point negotiate, but they don't have to.
But is there an obligation?
I think a lot has to do with the video. Like I'm saying, if the video is just absolutely clear and there's just no way that the prosecution is going to lose that case, I don't think they would do that. I don't think they would be looking to negotiate. If Alvin Kamara side has something and it's more like 50-50, they probably would try to. Or then then maybe you would have some kind of a plea bargain. So I think we would have to see the video before we could.
But is there a certain point where the video is so bad that the DA has to has to go into this situation and say, like, there's no pleading out of this situation. There's evidence of a crime taking place. We can't just allow this to be pleaded out. There's a literal attack of an individual, knocking him unconscious, putting him in the hospital. Like, does the defendant really have control over making this go away? If there's evidence of this in the police and the
right. So technically, no. Technically, regardless of what the defendant wants or thinks, the prosecution can move forward with the case. But I mean, if you think about it, the prosecutor is a public servant, and if the defendant is saying, "Well, I'm not hurt that bad. Alvin Kamara might pay me a whole lot of money, whatever," there's a chance that it could go the other way. That's where it's maybe 50-50. The defendant cannot control the prosecutor, but they work for you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if the defendant was saying, this is kind of how I feel about it, and the defendant, I guess we'd have to know what was being offered there. I mean, there's a chance that they would negotiate, but it would just depend on the strength of the prosecution's case, and kind of if the defendant is not really that upset about it, which, I mean, he got beaten up really bad.
So if the defendant wants, let's say the defendant's like, I just want the money. Like, in order to get the money, and if they move forward, this has got to go to a civil component of it before he gets, or because other than that, like the plea deal would be a quick way to money if they decide to move forward and just say forget the money, we're going to prosecute. Is there a award that goes to the defendant in this particular case, or is that only going to be done with an extension?
The defendant would have to, regardless of what happened in the criminal case, the defendant could bring a civil case next.
So if he pleaded,
and that's what they would have to do.
So pleading could get them to money faster versus having to do this thing again in the civil sense. So is that correct? So that would. Well,
no, I mean, you're going to have a separate civil case for what you're talking about. So if he wants to sue Alvin Kamara for $1 million in civil court, he's still going to have to file something in civil court and go through that whole process. But I guess what you're saying is, if Alvin Kamara agreed to some kind of a plea bargain that was way below what it should be,
right?
You know, he'd be still playing football probably, but he'd probably have some kind of a suspension, and he'd be then the defendant wouldn't have to wait for a whole criminal trial, which Adam Schefter thinks is going to take a year just to begin.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Well, but
I guess that would save some time. He's going to have no choice but to sue civilly if he's trying to get a whole bunch of money out of Alvin Kamara.
In the plea deal, he can't. I love that this guy Kerry's watching the live stream right now, but he doesn't know that he's watching this live stream from the beginning. So all of his comments are from the first 10 minutes of the show. And he's in the chat right now going, Smitty, calm down. It's going to be okay. Put down the chair, Smitty. This all happened at the beginning, but he's in the live chat and he's literally responding to the beginning of the video. But anyway, my last question, and then we're done. In the plea deal, let's say like you said, he agrees to some sort of really low plea deal. It's head-scratchingly crazy. Is there a money amount that could be offered in the plea deal, or does it still have to go to civil to receive $1?
So you can, I guess the answer to that question is you can get something called restitution for, let's say, his medical bills, something like that. But not necessarily what would be considered quote unquote punitive damages, which is what he might be seeking in civil court, which would be, the amounts of money that you're talking about.
So when somebody says,
I don't know what his medical bills are because I don't know what the injuries are.
A lot.
But I mean, there could be some amount of money. Yeah, I think it was really substantial.
Millions.
Some amount of money that he could be entitled to by virtue of winning.
Yeah. So what I'm
in the criminal case.
What I'm trying to say here,
if he were to sue in civil court, he'd be suing for a lot more money than that.
What I'm trying to say here is that people oftentimes come at me and say, Smitty, stop talking about this. He's going to plea out. He's going to plea out. There's going to be no trial. If someone plead out, they're not pleading out for any more money. Like if this goes to answer this is going to, I think, solve this whole plea argument that people have. Like, oh, it's going to plea out and get this money. What you're telling me is that if he pleads out, this defendant's no more likely to get money than if he takes the trial to court and gets the punitive damages at the end of that as well. The punitive damages, like you said, medical, whatever, are going to come at the end of a trial, or they're going to come at the end of a plea. But that's one and the same. You're not getting any advantage monetarily by pleading.
No. Okay, so it's the same thing. Do you remember the O.J. Simpson case? How there was a really highly publicized criminal trial, and then there was a much less publicized civil trial?
Yeah.
It's the same thing, except obviously O.J. Simpson case was about murder.
So
it's the same.
Yeah. So it's
the same process.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that when people say he's going to plea, there'll be no trial, relax. The only reason this guy would plea is to expedite things, and get that monetary amount that would be given to him at the end anyway. So what?
I don't know. So I don't think it was about that. I think maybe a plea bargain is the best thing that Alvin Kamara could do. So his attorney might be saying, "Look, there's a video of you beating the crap out of this guy. Let's work on a plea bargain because you're not going to fare too well in a trial."
Right.
And I think that's why people would be saying, "Oh, but here, like I said, without seeing the video, we don't know exactly. But let's just assume the worst, that the video is as bad as we think it is. His attorney might be looking to ultimately do that. But the problem is, it's not so easy to do that when you're talking about such a major crime.
Right, but a casual Caleb is going to come in here and say, Smitty, he's going to plead out and be fine. His pleading out is what I'm gathering from you, and this is what my opinion is too. His pleading out is essentially going to be so bad anyway, is to avoid some kind of crazier end game for him. So the plea, if he does plea out, it's going to be awful. It's not going to be some cakewalk pleading out and he gets to go play football. Pleading out would be something that he would do to avoid like even crazier outcome that's going to put him in jail or something, right? So the pleading out advantage for the defendant isn't going to be any more monetarily advantageous. If he's going to get medical, he's going to get medical. The big money's coming in civil. So these people that come to me and say, Smitty's going to plea out, it's all about money, he's going to plea out, get a big payday. He's not getting the payday until he goes to civil. He's getting the punitive damages, whether the trial goes forward or he pleas out. And if he pleas out, it's not going to be a small-time plea. It's going to be something the NFL says, you are done.
There's a decent chance of that. Let's say, for example, the video is Alvin Kamara pushed the guy out of the elevator, and then the guy put his hands back on Kamara, or when Kamara put his hands on the guy slapped Alvin Kamara's hands away, and then Kamara himself did nothing, but his guys beat this guy up really bad, and then Kamara kicked him one time when he was down. But his henchmen, so to speak, did all of the damage. Kamara might not be going to jail for a really long time because he himself didn't do that much. Now, there again, I would say that's just completely hypothetical. He might be able to plead to something where he's not going to jail because those other guys are the ones going to jail for, assault at least, or who knows exactly, maybe attempted murder if it was like that bad of a beating. Who knows? But for something, those other guys are the ones going to jail and not Kamara. He might be pleading to something that's way less of a charge than what those other guys. But that's assuming that's how it went down. If it went down like, the guy slapped Alvin Kamara's hand away, then Alvin Kamara grabbed his throat, started punching him in the face, and then the other guys didn't do very much of the beating. It was mostly Kamara. It's not going to happen like that.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on what we're seeing. And it's possible that it went down, like I just said, though. Like maybe Kamara didn't really assault the guy very much.
The reports are that Kamara punched him more than a handful of times. The reports are Kamara kicked him at least one time while he was apparently unconscious on the floor. So it definitely is very bad if those reports are correct. And we don't know because the video hasn't been leaked yet. But, hey, man, I appreciate you coming on and explaining this in tremendous detail. We will see you next time. We'll have you on more. You and Tony are amazing resources that I love to tap into. And I think you brought a lot of clarity to the situation in terms of Kamara and how you can't just plea out of this thing like everybody thinks. It's not that kind of plea deal. The plea deal is most likely, if the footage, like you said, is bad, and like I've said, is bad, the plea deal is to avoid some kind of long-term punishment that he doesn't want to go near, and the plea deal is still going to look so severely bad that it's going to be the league's reacting to it. That's my opinion. And this guy's...
Yeah, exactly. And it's probably going to be, pleading guilty to assault.
Yeah, it's not pleading to a misdemeanor, pleading to a misdemeanor of like, whatever, and then punitive damages of $1 million on a misdemeanor plea. You know what I mean? Like these people that are living in La La Land that think he's going to plea out like as if this is civil. It's not. Plea out for money. Like here's a check. You can't hand a check over in criminal court like this. So you're right. Plea out so he avoids jail time. and punitive damages of like probably $1 million. This guy's face was smashed up. I believe he had like a broken eye socket. It was bad, bro. It was bad. Look up the photos of it. It's gruesome. And this guy was this is like MMA, you know, when the guy doesn't call the fight soon enough and the guy knocks the guy down and then he keeps going and the guy's unconscious. It's like that. That's what I'm sure the footage is going to show. Appreciate you, my man, coming on here and explaining this Kamara situation. I think we're tackling it better than any other show because it's not like we're trying to like go at him negatively, but people are talking as if he's out of the woods. He's not. Just like Watson. What did I do? What did I say about Watson? Everybody in here watching, everybody kept saying that I was too reactive and I was going after Watson too much. I kept saying he's not out of the woods. He's not out of the woods. Look where we are with Deshaun Watson. These are two very similar situations where everybody's putting the cart before the horse, and there's more to it. It's not done unraveling yet. And that's how I feel about this situation. I appreciate you, my man.
I don't even know that when people think it's done unraveling, that it in fact will be, because I think he's going to do it again.
Yeah, the Watson thing. Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, there's 60 to 100. There's 60 to 100 potential cases out there that could. In the statute of limitations on Watson is March of 2023. You don't think that this attorney that's going after Watson isn't going to be on the phone with the people that were kind of weary about coming forward and like, guess what? We got a blueprint for a settlement. You want to walk right into, victory lane?
There's no way that didn't already happen.
Yeah. So
that guy's already done that. What you're saying?
Yeah, he's having dinners on the daily, trying to convince these people to jump over and do what they may have been tempted to do earlier, but didn't want to be in the spotlight. Hey, we got a blueprint for settlement where we can take this this way and that way. Watson's not even close to out of the woods. Not even close. I think you're absolutely right. I'm out of here. I appreciate you, my man. Thank you for coming on. We'll set up something on a regular. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, good stuff. Bye.
Thank you.
Baked In Boys. That is Baked In Boys. Our other attorney at law that comes in and just graces us with knowledge. And Tony, the attorney, Baked In Boys. These are the two guys that bring us the legal expertise that your boy Smitty has a good grasp over. When it comes to I'm the best deep fake doctor and deep fake legal analysis in the fantasy football space, but I do have to turn to my boys to come in and help out. And hey, I think someone took who was that individual that was talking about the show? Look, I felt bad because I think she took it the wrong way. Carrie says, watching this later and everyone, but I have a life business to run. We weren't making fun of the fact that you were behind. It was just it was hilarious. It was a funny thing. It wasn't a negative thing. So I hear this poor individual is watching the show, just enjoying and consuming the show, and took my comment wrong. I didn't mean that in a negative way. It was just hilarious to see you reacting to hour one. We're on hour 3, and you're talking about hour 1. It was just hilarious to see. That's all it was. We appreciate you. I apologize for how you took that. I'm out of here. Appreciate everybody. We're closing hour 3 down. I'm out of here. I'm tired. I'm live Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, every single Monday through Friday. And whenever news breaks, because your boy Smitty doesn't rest, he doesn't sleep, I'm going to order my pizza. Join me Monday through Friday, or whenever news breaks. I will see you all later. Hey, Raj, my boy Raj, go follow my boy Raj. RSF 49ers. He's in the chat right here. He's got a YouTube. Go check him out. We need to have you on, Raj, to talk injuries and such. Appreciate you all. Peace out.